You're watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture.
I'm here at the GA with Aaron Cohen of JUF News, who is a big champion of student journalism in the Jewish world and one of the most prominent Jewish journalists in America. Thanks for talking to us, Aaron.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'm somebody who's deeply interested in the Jewish story. And to me, that's what Jewish journalism is all about. And that's what conferences like this GA, where we are in Nashville, is really about. And so what I'm looking for in really a kind of a more meta level than the minutia of what people are talking about is this historical current and trying to get a sense of where we are as a Jewish people in this point in time. And in that regard, I'm kind of fascinated, Alan, as I know you are too, to hear what the various takes are. The thought just struck me that we're very much, as an involved group of people, concerned about where we are presently with so many people who aren't involved in Jewish life or don't step forward and identify themselves to various Jewish organizations or even, God forbid, subscribe to a Jewish paper. And very concerned about what are the future implications? Who are we going to be? And it just occurred to me a little bit of the missing link for lots of Jews, even engaged Jews, is who were we? Who did we used to be? What is this wisdom tradition all about that informs, obviously, who we were and how we evolved as a people? And there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion about that because many people seem queasy or uneasy. Again, I'm talking about people who are less religiously observant, Jews who identify because of Zionism, because of a family history that tells them that we need to band together, and there are times when we've needed to circle the wagons, but who don't really know much about wisdom tradition as a civilization concept. And when you look at the values, because let me back up. I'll give you another riff, and don't let me go on forever here. But again, at a session today where a number of very, very bright people were talking about how younger Jews relate to the concept of peoplehood. Statistics were brought up. We've got 1.5 million American Jews who are engaged, 4 million or so who really aren't engaged. And every time people bring up the numbers game, like how many American Jews are there? Is it 5 million or 5.2 million? How many of them are engaged? Is it 1 point? I say, people, we're talking about small numbers here. Worldwide, 13 million. And yet, in organizations like federations do this, they have to do this, talk quantitatively. Let's count the numbers. And there are times when you really need to know the statistics. I guess if you're funding a day school or need to get a handle on how you're going to fund services for the elderly, numbers count. But this was never a numbers game. This was really all about qualitative issues. What are our values? What informs us individually and collectively from the standpoint of morals, ethics, what we believe is right, what we think is wrong?
Involved with the Do the Right Thing program for Jewish student journalists, and you have internship programs for young Jews. And here at every GA these days, there's a lot of talk. A lot of money has now gone to Birthright, and they're talking about trying to fund Jewish day schools. So essentially, people are saying that we have a lot of fixes. We have things to fix about how we're raising young people. But very rarely is it's sort of said what we've done, what has been done wrong, and even more uncomfortably, very rarely, who made the mistakes? What mistakes were made? What is it that they're fixing with all this brand new money at the Jewish trips to Israel and Jewish day schools?
Well, I've had the good fortune to be involved with people in Chicago who are deeply committed to experiential learning opportunities. And I'll give you an example. I do a lot of work with high school students and some work with college students, but some of the most powerful work that I've had a great opportunity to be involved with is with 8th graders. A visionary in our community in Chicago, a number of visionaries, had the idea a number of years ago that, you know, birthright, and this was sort of at the beginning of the birthright process, birthright's great, but when is the disconnect happening? We got lots and lots of kids having bar and bat mitzvahs. And the notion was that, you know, that's where the disconnect is occurring. And the way to close that gap that Birthright came up with was, okay, let's engage them when they get to college. What about the 4 years in between? So the Ta'am Yisrael program that I'm going to describe says, we're going to take these kids at the point when it's commonly understood many of them disengage, take them to Israel for not 10 days like Birthright, 5 days. And a lot of people said, 5 days, that's ridiculous. Nobody can have a meaningful experience in 5 days. I have gone as a madrich and, you know, an organizer on 5 of these trips.
That's 25 days.
Well, it's actually more because we don't sleep. There's no sleeping going on within those 5 days. It's all, it's intense. And I've seen the power of experiential learning through various teaching moments. Many of them aren't really expected, although you learn to expect them after you do this, and that's really the motivation for going to Israel. But something so simple, like, you know, a kid who's been to a bar bat mitzvah, had that, you know, for themselves, knows they've heard of Sukkot, you know, and maybe they've gone to the sukkah at their temple. But as we're touring a kibbutz and learning about collective life, the tour guide, you know, sort of stops. Oh, by the way, you know, there's a palm frond, a palm tree, it's native to the land of Israel. Oh, by the way, here, look, pull this out. This palm frond. You know what Sukkot is? Well, guess what? This is what a lulav comes from, and the exponential learning, forget 5 days, 10 days, takes place at that instant in less than a second, in a way, and you feel the energy flow when the kids say, wow, I've seen here we are in the land of Israel, and there's a palm tree, and that's where the connection is made that is intensely powerful. So I'm a firm believer in the clever folks out there identifying the environment for powerful teaching moments to occur. And I'll give you one statistic, and then we can move on. This program has now taken 1,000 kids to Israel. Were it funded like Birthright, the idea would have been to take every 8th grader in the Chicago area. We're talking, you know, on an annual basis, maybe 11,000, 12,000 kids to Israel subsidized, so that they could have those teaching moments, and that then, during those 4 years, not that program would last them, but that they would make choices. So I'm going to describe to you one of the choices. 1,000 students have gone in the last 9 years or something like that, not the vision of how many. We're fortunate to be in a community where 8 of the public high schools, which, you know, have up to maybe 10% Jewish populations, have Hebrew language programs. You know, a kid can come into a high school, secular public high school, and learn Spanish, French, Latin, German, Russian, Chinese, Hebrew. I encountered many kids as a madrich on this program. So, yeah, and I always say, so, you know, what language are you going to take when you get to high school? Oh, I'm going to take Latin or whatever. Okay, you know, and I do my propaganda with them. Follow-up study on this program showed that 68% of the students who had gone on this 5-day program elected to take Hebrew as their language in the public high school. And I'm convinced that these are students who, without this program, would have elected to take Spanish, which is not a takeaway from the value of learning Spanish. I encouraged my kids to learn both Hebrew and Spanish. But the point being, a choice presented itself very soon after they went on this Tam Yisrael program, and they made a good Jewish choice, I think, as a result of it. So, experiential learning.